Welcome back to the channel, you rock stars. It's good to see you. So this story is an interesting one. Essentially, Nancy Pelosi is on this Asian tour. She wants to fly over to Taiwan. The Chinese military has said, don't do that. For real, don't do that. The US military has said, well, we'll give her fighter escort into the Straits of Taiwan. And the Chinese military said, we'll shoot you out of the sky. It's pretty based, actually. It's pretty based. Got to respect that. So nonetheless, we're in this posturing thing between like the great empire, like the US empire, like the declining empire, but like still holding on to world dominance, and the rising power that is China. Now, their demographics are terrible. Another video, but like the Chinese demographics are literally going to collapse for the next 10 years. They're going to have way more old people than they are going to have young people, and that's because of their one China policy or their one child policy. And they also self-selected through many different. They went for boys. Like that's what they wanted. So now they've got this like huge like population of young men, and they've got this huge population of old adults. And they have more men than they have women. And so they've got this issue. So if China were to lose 30 million young men, it wouldn't be a problem for them. And in fact, if you know your Chinese history, which I vaguely do, I scratched the surface for this video, they are no strangers to losing people. Like when we were fighting the Civil War, like our own little US Civil War in 1860, they were doing something similar, 20 million people. We cry about like 500,000. 20 million people. If you know your history about the 1950s in China, it's over 50 million people. It's China. If you think that China is not willing to lose a few million people here and there, it's just a spreadsheet error to them. It's not a big deal. Nonetheless, it brings us to the situation where US elites continue to do this really odd stuff. It's like, why do you gotta poke the bear? Like, they don't want you to go to Taiwan. Now, and one thing, they say, oh, you go to Taiwan, we'll shoot you out of the sky. It's almost like the US has to go like, well, we're gonna do it anyway, right? Because if you don't, you look weak. But if you do, you're insane, because there's just no need to start beef. Like there's just no need to start beef. But this is going to continue because when things get bad and when the inflation reports are bad and when there's, oh, we're officially in recession, we'll change the definition of recession. Oh, what is fully medicated? Oh no, actually we're going to change the definition of that too. See, they're wordsmithing. And this is important to understand because this is a clear sign of a failing and declining empire. Now, it doesn't mean that the empire is just going to like indefinitely fall into decline. Okay, there's moments in Rome where it falls into a real serious decline, and then there's so much political turmoil and so much political violence that one gentleman had to do something about it because he was going to be killed. And his name is Caesar, and he had an option. And he basically, like his family got to run Rome for 100 years. Like they were on decline, he was able to stop it, he was able to like redistribute property in certain ways, he was able to like equalize the people, and they actually had a good 100-year run after that. It wasn't until much after Caesar that Rome actually falls. America is in this exact same thing. And the way that you can tell is by the currency. And so you're starting to see these different nations posturing, and the US is like, we still have the almighty dollar. Like, we will sanction you. We will do bad things, right? But that's about to change. And I think it's like a key, whether, Pelosi goes over there and starts World War III, whether they get all the plebs going like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a war with China. Like there could be, but we can speculate on this as individuals, as individual investors, and go like, well, let me think. A company like Apple that produces all of their products, all of them, in China, what's the value of that? $2.4 trillion? It's a little rich. It's a little rich, right? Like, it's like, what happens if you go into a hot war with China, theoretically, and like your company produces all of its products in China? Like, probably not a great look, Apple. Nonetheless, just something to be mindful of. Like, that's a real serious possibility. Also, what happens if you have an actual military situation over there in Taiwan and a lot of the world's semiconductors are no longer produced? Now, we're building factories here. It's going to take a long time. Like, it's going to take many more years to get those done. Arizona's got some, Texas has some. So, like, we're starting to produce supply chains here that's going to cause inflation to increase because you're going to use American labor. You're also going to compete for concrete, steel. I mean, you got to build all these plants. You're going to compete for labor. You're going to compete for all of these things. So, whether or not they raise the interest rates, whether or not they print more money or currency, we're in this spot in world history where, as far as a U.S. perspective, we're going to have inflation, and we're going to have inflation for a long time. And the one asset that does really well in inflation is gold and silver. Like it does really, really well. Commodities in general, but if you want to just get like the whole spectrum of like, well, is oil going up, is corn going up, is soybeans going up? By the way, don't eat soy. You don't want to be a soy boy. But like these different things, you can just capture that by just going into the one asset, which is gold, which is money. Like JP Morgan said a long time ago that like gold is money, everything else is credit. And I would encourage you to put yourself on your own gold standard. So like when you look at the price of things, adjust it for ounces or grams of gold and just start playing with this. Like look at the price. Like I have a buddy who's got a 1954 airplane. I want this airplane. It's a Cessna 180. It's freaking awesome. But I adjust it for gold and I'm like, okay, I see what the actual value is. I see what it's selling for today. I see what the depreciation is. It's the only way that I could justify like, oh, well, the thing was $8,500 in 1954. He has the original receipt in the cockpit, like the original like receipt with the original owner's name. And today he could easily get almost 200 grand for the airplane. Well, it actually hasn't depreciated at all, adjusted for gold. Like it's just stayed right there. So putting yourself on your own standard, super mega important. But also like understanding that these US elites are doing very interesting things that don't even really make sense. It's odd what they do, and we don't know why they do it, but we know that when things get bad, when all else fails, they take you to war. And it's like, it's an unfortunate thing, but instead of having like internal turmoil between the right and the left, maybe we could just like have a hot war with China. Like, oh yeah, we could just, we could just tag up and like we got the Putin, the Russia thing going on, and we got this. And it's just like, it's kind of chaotic, and it's very similar to pre-French Revolution. And I think that we are approaching this point as far as like the empire is in decline, so we're the French. And like there was a massive like gross like unequal distribution of all of the wealth that was created during that time period. It happened to gravitate up to the top. You guys may have seen like the movie clip. It's a little Hollywooded up, but it's like, oh, well, the peasants are starving, give them cake or let them eat cake. Like our US elites are kind of in that spot where like they don't really have a clue, and they're used to having run the roost and like the global order for literally the last 80 years. And they just like, particularly the baby boomer leadership, walked in and was birthed into this world. And they just think like this can never, ever end. And I'm here to tell you like, oh, it can definitely end. Like it can definitely end. Not in the fact that the US empire will end, but like it won't possibly be top dog. The world may move to like a new currency. It may very well be adjusted for gold. It may be a BRIC currency, but like Russia, Brazil, India, China, like they make up a lot of the world's GDP. And so all of these things are up in the air right now. But when you see these type of news stories, you have to wonder like, what exactly is going on? What is the goal here? And how do you protect yourself? And the real news is like nobody is coming to save you. So like from your portfolio to your own living standards to like your own food, like you've got to be in a position where you're taking in what you need and what's going to serve you. Like if it's not going to serve you at this point in time, be okay taking 2 or 3 steps back, because everybody is about to take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps back. And if you're the guy that's willing and humble enough to take 2 steps back and get his house in order before these events inevitably happen, and they are inevitable, whether it's Taiwan in the morning and Apple like dropping 50% or it's something else, we are in that spot of the fourth turning. And a lot of these videos are going to be geared for that, to really break down exactly what's going on and like how you can, I don't want to say necessarily benefit from it, but at least avoid the absolute chaos. And then, yeah, we need to benefit on this, because if we see this coming and we can speculate on this coming, we need to do good, because like that's how we can do the best for ourselves, our families, our loved ones, and our friends. And we can only influence the people that we are directly around, and then hopefully those people can influence people, and through that we can have a ripple effect in the world. And ideally, we can have a renegotiation, which is like, why is it that we're allowing these US elites to do and continue to do what they're doing? And it all comes back to the strength and the power of the US dollar, which is completely on the chopping block. And it's something that you need to be paying attention to, because over the course of this decade, that is going to change in a big kind of way. I will see you guys down in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. Please share this with a loved one that needs to be informed of these things. Please like it, share it on social media, and until the next one, I'll see you down below. Peace.